Now, who doesn't love a good rant, right? I don't do a lot of rants because I like to try to stay positive, or at least try to provide a teaching moment. And this is going to be a teaching moment, I hope, for people. But if you came for the title, to hear me say that you shouldn't shoot does ever, that's not the case. But I want folks to quit shooting does if they feel they need to just shoot a doe to get some meat. I'd really like folks to start looking at does as, I hunt bucks, I hunt mature bucks, I love the strategy for mature bucks, I harvest does. And there's a difference to me. It's almost like does are like that low-hanging fruit on the tree, the apples. You're going out and picking a crop, whatever it might be, and you're managing that crop. And along with the management becomes educated, responsible decisions on when you shoot a doe. So just because you have a tag, and I've talked about it many times, Dylan wrote an article in the past, just because you have tags, there's a personal responsibility in everything you shoot. And one of the things that I hear over and over again is we're not seeing as many deer. We've seen fewer deer, and the first thing you do is you blame it on the DNR, you blame it on your neighbors, whatever. But I think we have to look inward and look in the mirror and say, we shot those 5 does during opening day of deer season last year. How did that affect our hunt? Did it kill our hunt? Just because you're a QDM advocate and you promote QDM on your property does not mean you have to shoot does. The QDMA gave me their Deer Manager of the Year award in 2004, and I hadn't shot a doe on the property in the 5 years that I owned it. It was because I managed the property well. In fact, I didn't shoot does. I attracted does. I improved the fawn production, and then that way actually built a quality deer herd. That's what they gave me the award for. The habitat and the work that it took and the philosophy that it took to create that quality herd, and it didn't even involve shooting does. And so quit shooting does, meaning that, I'm hearing someone that shoots 15 does during the September crop damage or August crop damage times, whenever it might be, or early October, and then they're wondering why they're not seeing bucks during the rut. In fact, it's November 15th, and they're saying, hey, we're just not seeing the rut starting. Well, it might be because there was 12 does shot on the land, and the does are spooked because they were targeted for 3 weeks at a time and dropped at every site. Not only do you not have the does running around to have bucks even be on the property but if you're not creating those cool season habitat improvements and food plots, you're probably not going to have them on. So it's just a big cluster of personal choices that make it so you don't enjoy that rut. There's a great time to shoot a doe and a bad time to shoot a doe. And just real quick, to me the best time is December to shoot does. It affects your sex ratios for the following year. It affects how much browse is completed on your property or eaten on the following year. And it affects your cruising and the bucks needing to seek and look and search and not run into a pile of does that they can just sit there all day during the rut. You can achieve that balance. It doesn't matter if you do it early in the season or late, but if you do it late in the season, you're doing it at a time when there's nobody in the woods. There's nobody you're going to push your land to. You can still buck hunt if you still have some tags left. You're not affecting the overall health of the biological makeup of the herd when it comes to sex ratios and adequate buck age structure. But what you are affecting when it comes to a quality deer herd and affecting the biological balance is you're harvesting deer at a time where you can affect the populations maintained in balance with the habitat, which is number 3 of creating a quality herd. Number 3 as it relates to adequate buck age structures and improved sex ratios. So you don't have to have that 1-to-1 ratio, but I want you to think about, again, and I hammer this topic a lot, is when it comes to does, quit shooting them if you don't have a lot of does. Just because you need some venison in that does in front of you, you have to think, if I shoot this doe, I can't complain next year when I don't have any deer on the land. And I noticed this, that, they've made some great regulation changes up in the UP in Michigan where they're keeping people from shooting does in the deer yards. But you'll have deer that migrate to those deer yards from very low population density areas, say along the Lake Superior shoreline. And they go in their areas literally where some sections don't have deer, and in a lot of sections the average is 5 deer per square mile. That's 5 total deer, does, fawns, bucks, everything. And so imagine those does going down to a deer yard, and you go in and shoot 3 does because you have the tags, and all of a sudden you just wiped out the deer population for 4 square miles by shooting 3 does. That can happen. And so until other areas get overpopulated with several warm winters, you're not going to see any deer in those locations. It's not like deer come in from a 3 to 4 deer per square mile area to move into another area. They're just there's no deer there, and there might be deer there for, not deer there for 15 years until another area becomes overpopulated. So it all boils down to, please quit shooting does. I think the thought in the late 90s, early 2000s was shoot every doe you see. The only time you shouldn't shoot a doe is when you don't see them. That you shoot a mature doe every time you see it. You shoot an adult doe every time you see it, and all season long. Well, you destroy your property. You destroy your ability to create a quality herd. I see people all the time that I know are huge QDM advocates, and they're shooting does during the heart of gun season, and they have to go out and get those does and spook those deer off. My son Dante and his friend Alec, they're going to shoot some does on a property that we manage around here this weekend, and I think we can afford to take about 3 would be the target goal, maybe 4 at the most. And we're doing it at this time. It's Wisconsin's doe season. It's after the gun hunt, muzzleloader hunt, and Diane might be hunting later in Christmas time, New Year's, into the late season with a bow. She might even hunt today, and then tomorrow it starts that doe season. So today's her last chance, but we're allowing the boys to go out there and shoot does because it's at a time where it's not going to affect the hunt, and it will set the deer herd back for a couple weeks on the property. And if we get huge snows and they move to their winter areas, we might not even have that hunt that we can grasp and enjoy for the rest of the year if Diane wanted to go hunt with a bow later in the season, because those deep snows push the deer into some deep yarding areas where they can find thermal cover, effective thermal cover. So I'm not saying not to shoot does. I'm saying to measure not only if you should shoot them, take a really critical look. Of course, it doesn't boil down to if you have a tag or not. I've even had people say, well, let's remove the second buck license in Michigan and replace it with doe license. What a tragedy. Can you imagine across the entire state of Michigan where half the state there shouldn't be any doe shot? In the northern lower portion of Michigan right up here, there's many areas that have low deer populations. You shouldn't shoot a doe. And then much of the UP and low deer density areas, you should not shoot a doe. We need that older age structure of does to actually have a sustainable herd. So it really boils down to, in some areas, having a sustainable area herd or not if you shoot the does in some extreme northern portions, and that would include Michigan. So make a good educated decision. If I shoot this doe, am I affecting the population? Are you in an area where deer migrate to your property in December because you have the only food left standing? Well, then maybe you need to shoot does in the early season because you might be shooting does from 3 miles away where they don't have those same conditions. You might always have those deer coming back in December, moving from miles away, but that doesn't necessarily reflect where those deer stay the other 10 months of the year or 9 months of the year in their home core habitat. So you need to make a decision there. And by all means, if you're complaining about deer numbers, I see people complain about deer numbers and they'll just say, well, I'm just going to take a doe. And really needed that doe. It is almost impossible to kill a mature doe during the harshest winter conditions. Once that doe is mature, very low percentage of winter loss, and actually that extends to mature bucks in the deep northern deer yards too. I hope you realize that fact. But be very critical, make an educated, responsible decision for shooting a doe this fall. And by the way, again, December, right now where we're shooting this video, is an exceptional time, January, to shoot a doe unless you have that attraction effect where you're attracting, 100% of the does within 3 miles because of your late season food sources, and they don't necessarily relate to just your land. Great time to shoot a doe. Be very critical of shooting doe, and by all means, if you don't have a lot of deer or you're trying to build a deer herd, don't shoot a doe.